I won't focus, and I wouldn't say that. And it's. I think he had some good actions. I think it was a reasonable performance, and it was. It's never easy, especially when there's a slow start. But as I said, he had some good actions. He was reliable in his job, so I wouldn't say so.
Maybe we train every day the best possible way, look after yourself, and first of all believe that you can do it, and you can always improve, and you can always get better and have players back. The more players we have back, more competition is going to be within the team, more alternatives, more players to impact the game, and make sure that especially that we believe that we can do it.
Forget about the goals, of course, is important. Do you know how he played? How he control and accelerate? He has become already a top-class football player. He was before a little boy, good actions. Now has become already feel a world-class top player. He's so good. Can play in everywhere, especially in the central position. He's really, really, really good.
In a game like today, it's in a final. Who scored first, maybe should be in a big advantage, but we didn't score. That was the problem, and then we conceded on the last minute, and it was difficult to react. Yes, final are finals. It's about to win. It's not about to now to talk too much, because you cannot go back, and we don't have revenge from that.
That's a good one. A good development, yeah. Yeah, I said it a couple of times. We were lucky. We bring him in, and obviously Vataro. I'm pretty sure in 3-4 years Vataro will sign another long-term contract at Liverpool, just because he might be 30 or 31 in the passport, but he's not. He's a machine. He's footballing-wise exceptional. His defensive brain is outstanding. Gives us a lot of freedom for a lot of things. Yeah, top development, I have to say. Yeah, very helpful, very helpful.
And we are live. We're back on the Hayters TV Football Weekly live show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Callow, and I'm here with my colleagues from Hayters TV. This is the one time a week when you get the chance to quiz us on all the matters going on in the football world. Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, and the League Cup, Carabao Cup final in particular this week. To my left, I have my great friend and colleague, Jerry Cox, who's been running Hayters with me for too long to, I care to remember. Muddle my words there. Down on my right here, we've got Sam Honky Tonks Tonks, king of the social media, clips, editing, and everything all social. And next to him, we've got Dan Bennett, Danny B, who's one of our best top reporters, and also has a looks after the Hayters.com, Hayters TV website. So I'd advise you getting a look there to see all our latest articles, link to our podcast, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everything else that we do for football for you. And just a reminder for those of you who have tuned into this before, this is really just a little precursor before we launch our new Hayters TV membership scheme. And this will be part of the elite top level of the membership scheme, where you get this live weekly show, the chance to react, interact, and tell us what you want to see more of on the Hayters TV coverage. Now, without sort of delaying too much, Jerry, let's kick off with the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. You were there. Last week we were predicting what we thought was going to happen. There was me and two other people sitting here to my right who all said Liverpool would win. You said Chelsea on penalties.
I know.
And you were very nearly right.
I know.
But us three were a bit righter.
2 minutes away from going into penalties, and I still stand by the fact I think Chelsea would have won it if they had gone to penalties.
Oh, well.
Virgil van Dijk came up trumps in the end, and deservedly got the winner, because he was outstanding all game, and that was harsh, that goal that was disallowed earlier on. Yeah. It was technically correct, but blimey, no one sort of really understood it at the time, and again, all the fans watching in the stadium didn't have a clue what was going on. It didn't look off. It wasn't offside. Van Dijk wasn't offside, but obviously, as we found out later, Endo was, and it was interfering, and blah, blah, blah. It was an amazing, crazy game. I mean, the first half an hour, it was just chaotic. Neither side got the ball down and played. I was walking my dog earlier in the day, and I thought I'd seen some of the lads playing Sunday football who was a bit more controlled than that. But it sort of settled down into a game, And it was mad. I mean, there was so much incident in the end over those 2 hours nearly that it was one of the people are talking about one of the great cup finals. The way it panned out. Chelsea.
Would you agree with that? Would you say it's one of the great finals?
In pure footballing terms, you wouldn't say so, but in terms of drama and incident, it was certainly a massive step up from the last two again between these two sides. The 0-0s, which I went to as well, which went to penalties. I think Chelsea were a bit lucky that Caicedo wasn't sent off first half. I mean that was a really bad injury that he gave to Gravenberch, and whether it's accidental or not, it's a dangerous challenge. So I think he was lucky there. It wasn't even a foul or a yellow card in the referee's mind. So Chelsea was slightly lucky not to lose a man, and obviously Liverpool had to reshuffle. I think the masterstroke really was when Klopp sent on his kids at the end. I mean, Conor Bradley had started anyway, one of the young boys, but towards the end, he sent on those young players, just before the end of normal time. And you're thinking, is this, he's sending them on for these sort of young legs just to sort of try and keep Chelsea in check, and is this Chelsea's moment? And it went the other way. Liverpool took control of the game. Kids were good, really good. Dan's almost scored. He had a header tipped over, didn't he? They just put themselves about and they looked, they took control of the game. And I think it was fair enough that Liverpool won that in the end.
What do you think? And what was it like in the press box? So the narrative, I was watching it at home on TV, and the narrative was, Gary Neville saying Chelsea's billionaire bottle jobs, and the Klopp's kids. If you look at the teams, Chelsea had a younger average age.
Yeah.
And Arsenal, when they played in the League Cup, they had 21 years old. I think Liverpool about 25 years average age. You've got Van Dijk.
So you've got a couple of players who bring it.
Was that a fair comment? The bottle jobs against the kids? No, I don't
think so. I think the term bottle jobs is a really it's a slur on any football team.
Yeah, I agree.
Football player, and I thought that was out of order really. It's just a cheap headline, and obviously everyone was seized on it, and everyone's talking about it. Chelsea could have won it. They had 2 or 3 chances. Queven Kelleher was fantastic. We were talking about him last week. Yeah. Andrew Smith, our Irish football expert and Gaelic expert, was talking about because he's got a background in Gaelic. That's why he's so good. It's those sort of saves. But he made 3 really good saves, and even then, Petrovic made a couple of great saves towards the end with Harvey Elliott. And so it could have gone either way. And I don't think anyone in the press box was seeing this as Chelsea just capitulated. If one of those chances had gone in, Chelsea lift the cup, Pochettino's got his first trophy in England, all the doom and gloom, the whole narrative shifts. Football is a game of fine margins. I know the outcome is hugely different, and you could see, Wembley, the seats to our right, the blue colours just emptied within minutes, whereas the Liverpool fans, the players, they were all on the pitch.
They were noisy, weren't they?
Yeah, and they stayed on, and they were all linked arms singing, You'll Never Walk Alone. And it was a real family occasion. It was a proper sort of, club together and everything. And it's such a big step for them, given that, we're talking about this long farewell to Jurgen Klopp. That's the first leg, ticked off, won a trophy. It hasn't undermined their season. People are talking about like Bayern Munich, if Tuchel, announcing Tuchel's going, will undermine their season. Well, this is certainly not undermining Liverpool's season. The question is, that's the first one gone. Now they've got the FA Cup starting very soon, like tomorrow night. The league, they're back in action, then Europa League. So it's non-stop. They've still got these injuries. They've got another one. The mix zone at Wembley was like a scene from Casualty. Players on crutches, and even Endo had a protective boot on. Yeah. Trent Alexander-Arnold walked past, and one of the reporters said, "Oh, you're right, Trent." And he sort of joked. He pointed down at this brace on his knee. Going, "What do you think?" So I mean, they're the walking wounded at the moment.
Darwin Núñez looked all right though.
Yeah. That was incredible.
I think that
Liverpool Gravenberch got on the pitch at the end. Yeah. So they're sort of walking wounded, and they'll be coming back. So they're going to be stronger. But
and it's not like it's the first time some of those Liverpool kids have ever played football. They're not completely unknown. If you talk to people who cover Liverpool regularly, these guys have been highly sought after young players. It could be that it'd be interesting to see how it develops. Whether they have got futures at Liverpool, they become part of the first team, or that's just we don't see or hear of them again until there's another injury crisis. You're mentioning Poch and the FA Cup. Sam, at Hayters, we've just been digesting what Pochettino's had to say ahead of their FA Cup tie against Chelsea. A lot of narrative about his job's under threat, what the owner's going to do about him, how they're going to go against Leeds. We've got a poll, by the way, who you think's going to win the FA Cup. And we want you to get in on the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Will you be joining our membership scheme when this all goes into the membership system? Let us know about that, what you want to see more of on Hayters TV. But first of all, we want to hear about Sam and what's going on at Chelsea, because it's just hot from the training ground, isn't it?
Yeah, so Pochettino was speaking today to the press ahead of his FA Cup tie with Leeds, and he reiterated, which again, believe it if you want to, but he said that he had the support from the owners after the game. They said hello to him at Wembley. He met with Bedad, who's their one of the sporting directors, the night after the final. We were talking about the game, the opportunities we missed. We were really good and created enough chances to win, but it has been like this since the start of the season. Pochettino said also in the 90 minutes he felt Chelsea were the better team. And he also clarified that he never told the team to play for penalties, which was another point from the presser where people were... The way he said it was like in extra time maybe the players felt penalties would be better, but he reiterated he didn't instruct them to play for penalties, which is the criticism. Obviously, is that in extra time Chelsea just fell flat and kind of let the game go into Liverpool's favour. Another blow is Christopher Nkunku apparently is confirmed as injured from the game as well, which is just like...
He's always... I mean, has he
3 to 4 weeks.
All right, another one.
So, really... Well, he may as well rest for the whole rest of the season. May as well just be like, look, maybe come back a couple times, but just get a full pre-season next year.
That's the second time since he came back from the serious injury that kept him out for half the season that he's been re-injured. I think that's the second time.
Yeah, I mean, I think also for Pochettino to get that team as well knitted and get that whole spirit of a club like Klopp has at Liverpool, it takes time. I'm looking at our clip of Pochettino's press conference on the Hayters channel. After you've joined us here in the chat, get over there and watch what Pochettino's had to say. He's making the point that Klopp didn't win a trophy for 4 years at Liverpool, and now everyone quite rightly saying he's one of the greatest ever managers there's been in the Premier League, or maybe in the whole game. So it sounds like that it's quite valid that Chelsea should give him time, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Pochettino, the way he's saying it, it's like there has to be, like, I know the ages at Chelsea were younger, but at the end of the day, there's so many experienced players, despite their age. Fernandes, World Cup winner. Caicedo, Premier League with Brighton. He's an established Premier League international as well, World Cup. Colwell's even experienced with Brighton for 2 whole seasons. Dizazi's played in Ligue 1. Even Gusto played in Ligue 1. Really, the goalkeeper's a bit of a young player, but even you got Jackson, international La Liga player. Raheem Sterling was really disappointing. Cole Palmer, I don't think you could criticise whatsoever. He's been fantastic. Was good at the weekend. Gallagher as well, I think, was pretty good. So I think the thing with Chelsea is that you could, like you said, Klopp, you could tell the identity of the teams where Klopp is throwing these youngsters in who really are, making their debuts in the week against Luton, and they're coming in, they know exactly what they're doing, regardless if Bradley's going right wing, then centre mid, then right back, if Dan's is going up front, and they know exactly how to play because it's an inbuilt thing throughout the whole club, whereas Chelsea is just a bit of a mess. And whether that's some will say Pochettino's at fault, some will say the players are at fault, and some will say the owners are at fault, where I think it's a bit of everything. So I think Pochettino saying that the age thing is a bit of like a caveat there, where it's like they may be younger, but they have enough experience to perform a lot better as well. So I think the Leeds game is massive because Leeds, very good in the Championship, just beat Leicester, who are, seen as the Championship top dogs. So they're coming into it on good form. They'll see Chelsea as well. We can really take a scalp here. Leeds will fancy themselves with Daniel Farker, who's a very well-drilled manager. So I don't think Poch is under a lot of pressure for his job, but I think he certainly... There can't be too many excuses. He should be performing better.
That trophy would have changed the whole narrative for him.
Exactly.
I'm just seeing in the chat, I don't know how you say your name, Scat7Man, is that supposed to be Scatman? It'd be nice to know your real name and where you're watching from. He says, I'm a Leeds fan and he can't wait to play them. And I bet Leeds will relish that. Dan, you're going to cover an FA Cup match tonight for us.
I am.
Luton against Manchester City. Get in on that poll. Tell us who you're going to think. We've already had 2 City fans saying City's going to retain it. We've got Singura from where's he from? Uganda. It said Manchester City will win the FA Cup. They're playing Luton tonight. You're going to be there for us, getting the post-match videos for Hayters TV, reporting on the game for the website. How do you see that sort of going and the FA Cup as we get back into this next round of the tournament?
I think City probably have to be favourites to win the FA Cup again. I mean, for every trophy really, you'd be pretty bold to look past them, to be honest. So I think it'll be an interesting one tonight. So I think Pep Guardiola will make quite a few changes. I mean, I was at the game on Saturday as well when they narrowly beat Bournemouth. And in his post-match press conference, the big theme of it was about how ridiculous their schedule is because they played in Saudi Arabia for the Club World Cup. That meant that they had to play that rescheduled game against Brentford. So they're playing Tuesday and obviously Champions League as well. And he was just praising his players, you know, about how pleased he was with them that year after year, despite the manic schedule, they can just keep going and going and going and challenging at the very top, which I think is a good point because you kind of look at that game against Bournemouth and think, well, you know, it's quite a narrow win. They gave up quite a lot of chances against the team they should be beaten more comfortably. But when Pep Guardiola speaks and about the schedule, you kind of think, well, you know, yeah, these players can be amazing, which they are, but it's so, you know, going year after year after year is such a difficult thing to do, and yet they keep doing it. So, yeah, I mean, on tonight's game, I think, like I said, I think based on that, what he said, I think there will be quite a few changes. It'll be interesting to see how Luton line up as well. You know, because I think it's fair to say they'll prioritise Premier League survival over an FA Cup run.
They've just had they've sort of seen Everton go further up the table away from them after they got 3 points back from the deduction.
Yeah. So I think that it'll be 2 changed teams, I would imagine, tonight, but I'd still back City to win. I don't think I'm going out on a limb and saying something controversial there. I do think Man City will win.
I mean, did City look wobbly against Bournemouth?
I mean, first half they didn't. They dominated Bournemouth, to be honest. I mean, they didn't create loads and loads of chances. Haaland had quite a good one. I think it was at 0-0 before Foden scored. So if he puts that away early on, I think it could have been maybe a bit of a different game. But yeah, I mean, first half they controlled possession. I think Bournemouth barely had a shot. They might have had 1 or 2 shots in the first half. But fair play, whatever the manager did at half-time worked because they came out second half and gave it a really good go. That's probably... You know, all the times I've watched City, that's probably as well as I've seen a team compete against Man City, to be honest. I mean, you know, City had their chances as well, but Bournemouth definitely could have taken a point from that game. They had a really good header at the end from Enes Ünal, that's how you pronounce it. He headed wide, and Solanke had one off the line as well. So they created some really good chances. So yeah, that might provide a little bit of hope maybe to Liverpool and Arsenal fans that they are vulnerable.
It's interesting to me anyway what you're saying about Pep, saying about all these games. Of course, the one person who has to be up and ready for all of these matches is him.
Yeah,
he has to be there
he can rest players, but
before the match, after the match, during the match.
But you know, it's
and he's
the
there,
mental pressure is.
I mean, how do you think he's sort of coping with the pressure this season? Do you think he's still got that same fight? You're seeing him up close and personal quite often.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, people said like when Klopp left that, you know, he looked tired, and I never really thought that, to be honest. It's just you don't really know what's going on in the person's mind, do you? So, but certainly, you know, the way he talks, the way he is, he's so charismatic and energetic, and I've not seen any change in that at all. And I think he's been asked pretty regularly, more than once, about, you know, Klopp's leaving. You know, kind of obvious question is Pep and Klopp have, you know, given this amazing era of competition in the Premier League. When's Pep going to leave? Because he's going to leave at some time. But he certainly seems very up for it. I think he's got another year on his contract, is it, at City? So I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he signs an extension on whether he stays. But he certainly looks like...
He strikes me a bit like sort of the Novak Djokovic. You know, he's trying to write his own record books with a number of Grand Slam titles, and Pep wants to create his own sort of history as the greatest manager, the most winningest manager, if there is such a phrase.
Who did he play for then,
Djokovic, he played for Barnet, I think. Red Star Barnet, I think it was. Novak Djokovic, the tennis player.
But as you remember, I went out on a limb and was completely wrong, thinking that Pep might go in the summer, last summer.
You did, yeah, you were quite
because I was told, I was told.
And you said Chelsea were going to win the League Cup.
I did last week, yeah. What else can I say?
I don't know.
But I was given a sort of bit of a hint that Pep was unhappy the year before, and I just thought this. Going into the end of last season, if they do win the treble, if they win the Champions League, which is one of his things, he wants to win that with Man City, and with what we know is coming up over the horizon, you know, these 115 charges, which are going to somehow make a huge difference, I think, to what the way Manchester City is seen and the working environment there. I just thought, well, maybe this is when he'll, you know, do the famous mic drop and walk away then. But he didn't, so who knows? Having said that, there's a lot of talk that Klopp was very unhappy last season, and at this stage last season was thinking of going. So, you know, he might get talked out of it once, but maybe not twice. And I think, you know, you made that point about the relentlessness. Klopp talks about it as well. If
Yeah.
Liverpool play all their games, if they go all the way in all their games, it's 66, I think they'll have played this season. That's, you know, it's 50% more than, say, Tottenham or probably Chelsea. And yet, you can rotate the players, but you can't rotate the manager. He's there for every single game. And he's, you know, I think he said he did, in the week of his resignation, or his announcement, I think he said he did 8 press conferences that week. You know, so it's
just around matches, not just to
around.
talk
Well,
about
that was the added one as well. But it's just so much relentless pressure, and you know, much as you say, he in fact he came into the mix zone on Sunday evening, and he'd finally done his press conference, which was quite late, and then he came through, and the guy from Sky said, "Oh, Jurgen, you know," he said, I've just done 9 interviews. I've done 9 interviews and a press conference.
And he could hardly talk, could he?
Yeah, he could hardly talk. And if you saw our clip of him coming into the main press conference after those 9, he starts off by saying to the journalist, couldn't you have just watched my other interviews? But that's the relentlessness of it, you know, and that's what, I mean, we see this behind the scenes. You know, managers are doing huge numbers of interviews, as well as, I mean, all the other stuff they've got to do around preparing for a match. That's almost like a side issue for them. You know, I mean, over the years, we've all come across managers who'd rather just not do anything. You know, a lot of players just don't do any media unless they're really pushed into it.
Wouldn't be very good for us if they didn't do.
Well, it wouldn't be, and it wouldn't be for fans, because fans want to know what's going on. They want to hear the explanations, and they want to, you know, so they are obliged to do it. I mean, that's the way it works at the moment in the Premier League and UEFA and World Cups. They are obliged to do a press conference before and after a game, which is great for us, great for you, the fans. But I think there is a strain attached to it, and these guys, you know, they're not robots. That's a hell of a
Klopp
lot.
seems almost re-energised, doesn't it? It's like a weight off his shoulders now. He said he's going, and he can sort of just.
He did the fist pumps to all 4 stands at Anfield last week. So
better get the celebration police. on that one.
Do you think they've levelled up because almost maybe the burden's off his shoulders? That I'm going. This is going to end, but I'm going to make sure it ends with all the trophies. Do you think they're levelled up now because of that? I think
psychologically, like if you know the end is in sight, it is a load off. Like you said, it's a load off your shoulders.
I think everything's a sort of free hit. If he wins, fantastic.
He knows
but if
he
he
can
doesn't,
give it
they've
his
got.
all,
I mean,
and
this
then
one
he's got a
trophy. He
year
said
off.
it's his greatest ever achievement because he played
because
some
that's
young
one,
players,
and if the rest come, they come. But if they don't, he's got one.
Harvey Elliott said after the game, you know, we want to win everything for this manager. You know, they want to do it for him. They're not just doing it for themselves. And I think there's the difference there when you see a club that's maybe in a bit of flux or in crisis, or it's not quite working, and it's a club, I'm not saying it's Chelsea for example in this instance, but I mean I've seen it at Tottenham close up, where the managers do get through managers, the players stop playing. You know it. I've seen it years ago at different clubs. The players tend to stop playing for the manager anymore, and once that happens, you've got no chance. You know? So and you know, stress, I'm not saying that's happening at Chelsea or anything like that, but you can see the difference where those players are bursting to win for the manager, which those young, and especially young players.
And they've got Southampton at home tomorrow night in the FA Cup. We'll have Nazira Youssef reporting for us from Anfield, and Chelsea at home to Leeds United. I think we've had some. Okay, can you see the comments over there?
Sam?
The
Scatman said he's from Leeds.
Oh, he's from Leeds. Right.
And I think he said he's going to Stamford Bridge.
Well, he says he's marching down to.
Isn't
that their song, marching
all together?
Yeah, marching together. That will be a great away end though. Leeds often, everyone's like Leeds always bring the best away ends and one of the best. So that'll be.
And the FA Cup, you get a much bigger allocation of away fans. You get a proper atmosphere. Most of these FA Cup ties.
I mean, you could probably speak to it better. Not to poking fun at your age here, but Chelsea Leeds.
Chelsea Leeds Cup,
wow,
1970. That was
not so much recently,
ones.
but yeah.
I remember watching that on the telly, and I was a small kid at the time. But that was brutal. I mean, there were so many fouls in that. They once got a leading referee to watch it on. I think it was 442 magazine did it. They got a referee to watch it all over again on the monitor, and dish out cards according to the current modern regulations. And there was something like 18 yellows and about 5 reds, over the course of this game. It was brutal.
And it'd probably be even more today, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
And that's I remember that.
That was a few years ago.
10 years ago.
Most of the goals wouldn't have stood; they'd have been chalked off.
And the pitch was a mud bath.
Pitch was a mud bath. They used to have the. I mean, it's insane to imagine this, but they used to have the Horse of the Year show at Wembley a week before. So you'd have horses trampling all over the Wembley grass in the rain or on a wet pitch about a week before the cup final. I mean...
That's like, do you remember Tottenham when they played at Wembley and they had the NFL or driving at the pit, and Man City went there and the pitch was on, it was on TV and it was just horrendous. I think Mahrez scored, it was 1-0 or something.
Yeah, I think if you talk to players from the 70s and sort of pre-Premier League, they often say the thing they really miss from playing then to now, if that's the right phrase, is the quality of the pitches.
Yeah, they envy the current players, don't they?
Yeah. Not just the money, but it's the conditions that they get to play in. I mean,
and in fact, while we're here, I'll talk about players of the 70s. We got to mention Stanley Bowles, who sadly went this week, but man, what a player he was. I remember, again, as a young man, going to QPR with mates to watch, and they had a really good team. They were really close to winning the league. They were top of the league, and Liverpool had a game in. I think Liverpool.
They come second,
were losing. Yeah, Liverpool were losing with minutes to go in the final game of the season and turned it round, won 3-1. But other than that QPR side would have won the league. And Stan Bowles was at the centre of it. Jerry Francis was a great midfielder, and Don Givens was good up front.
Tony Curry part of the team?
No, that was pre-Tony Curry, I think. But Bowles was an exceptional player. And I mean, Dan, you covered QPR as well.
I covered
absolute. I don't know many. I mean, I know a lot of QPR fans. I can't think of any who don't have Stanley Bowles as their favourite player. My mate named his dog after him. Others have named their kids after him.
I covered him for quite a few years. I mean, before I came here, and just being around the club, you get the feel of these names, and Stan Bowles is right at the top of the list of the most talked about. And when people look back at the best times of QPR, that era is always talked about. So sad loss.
And I mean, he was quite ill in his latter days, but I mean, even before that, he was still an incredible character. I mean, so many stories that you'd find him in the bookies sort of 10 minutes before kick-off at Loftus Road, with his boots and pads ready to go, but he'd just get one last bet on and then rush to get on the pitch. And even like years later, I remember going to I think it was a book launch for an England book, and I was chatting to him and I said, "You got a great story, Stan. You should do a book." And I think for the next 6 months, he was ringing me up every week, sort of asking if I'd do this. But you've got to find a publisher first, But and I'm sure someone's done it. But he was book. So many stories. So a sad loss, but well remembered. There's some great footage out there even now. Sort of some of the things he was doing there. Magical.
It's amazing to watch these brilliant players, like you say, on those horrible pitches.
Yeah.
Like
George Best.
I was just going to say, when you watch highlights of old George Best and the control and even Maradona,
Ricky Villa,
the control they have of the ball on that horrible pitch, it's like incredible to watch. I know that we have some great players nowadays, but there's just something about watching those old players. It's so impressive.
Anyway, back to the present. We've got a big weekend coming up.
Huge weekend of football, And we've got every team's in action. A few teams missed. Tottenham didn't play at the weekend, did they? No. They're back in action at home to Palace, and their new manager, Oliver Glasner. Is it Olivier or Oliver? Oliver Glasner. But I mean, we've got the title. The big game of the weekend, though, of course, is the aforementioned Manchester City, who are at home to Manchester United. We'll have our man Stan Smith at the Etihad for that one for us to get all the post-match reactions for you. And remember, you join us here on the live chat, the Hayters Football Weekly. Get your name in the comments so we can give you a shout out. Sam Tonks, my great friend and colleague to my right, will be giving you a shout out if you get your name in there. There's another poll I see going on there. Who would you rather play for? If you were a footballer, would you rather play for Guardiola or Klopp? Jerry's just been telling us how Klopp, the players just love playing for him. They just give everything for him. We've seen that a bit at Arsenal and Arteta, how he's transformed that. And you can't argue, really, that the Manchester City players give everything for Guardiola, don't they? And that's why they're favourites to win the title yet again this season. Sam, what are your thoughts on the big game of the weekend?
I think, in the last couple shows, we'd kind of built up United a bit, and, they'd been playing well, they'd shown some promise, and then they'd just go and get absolutely dominated by Fulham, which, to be fair to Fulham, they were fantastic. They carved them open at will. Probably should have won comfortably before it got to the 89th minute equaliser and then having to score in the 97th minute. So, again, it's typical now that United have built momentum. That's now gone, and now they're going into Manchester Derby where, they've got to play Nottingham Forest first as well, where, you check on YouTube, we'll have Ten Hag's reaction to their hope to see if they can beat Forest and progress in that. But that'll again, if they're going to Manchester Derby back-to-back defeats, are they really going to be prepared for Guardiola's City at home, looking to avenge? They've had quite a few hiccups at home to United over the years. I think they'll want to make their mark now, especially Arsenal picking up form. Liverpool look, kind of unstoppable on this wave, as you said. So it's a tough one for United now, I think, which is a shame because, again, you not that I particularly, United doing badly is always interesting content at the same time, but you built them up and picked out players that are doing well, and they were just so flat on Saturday.
Sam, I think this time last week, I teased you earlier, Jerry, for your prediction about Chelsea and something else. Or you mentioned it earlier about a Pep, but I think quite a few of us last week when we were talking about our top four went for United because they seem to be the momentum, the news to Jim Ratcliffe, the uplift from that takeover. But that result against Fulham, yet again, was a reminder that there's a lot to improve there. Before they can be really taken seriously. Yeah,
I think it's like Chelsea, where there's a lot of difficulties at the club. Do half the players want to be there? Again, people have talked about Rashford. He was given the number 9 role at the weekend because Højlund was missing. Failed to live up to it again. Is Varane really interested in being there? He was dispossessed really easily at times. Casemiro's just really gone off the boil, which again is a weird one because last season he felt like a genius signing, completely changed the team as like that anchor. Now he's just diving in, seeming like he couldn't be bothered if he got sent off every week to miss more games. So it's bizarre. It's a really bizarre one with United. So really all points towards, can Man City repeat the 6-3 of last season or just wipe the floor with them?
I was going to say, I went to the Luton game, Man United v Luton, at Kenilworth Road, and I know they won the game, but they didn't play well. I know they've not played well, I don't think, at all, really.
No, I think Højlund's goals have been disguised as a sort of fundamental flaw.
I mean,
there.
those two
defending,
goals
they look really poor defensively.
Those first two goals in the first 7 minutes were what decided the game, and you think, God, this could get really embarrassing for Luton. This could be, big, heavy scoreline. But I mean, fair play to Luton as well, because they didn't let it change their approach at all. They responded really well, got a goal back, and then second half they were the better team. I mean, you look at the possession stat, I think Luton had about 60% possession. I mean, when do Luton have 60% of the ball against anyone?
I mean, fans were calling for let's leave Bruno in Luton and take Ross Barkley to Old Trafford. That's how bad.
There was a report the other day actually linking Barkley.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
But,
exactly.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Højlund's goals have disguised it a bit. He's hit a good run of form, and they've been decent in patches, but overall the performances this season, even when they've won, have been well.
United are away at Nottingham Forest tomorrow night in the FA Cup, so they're both in FA Cup action in midweek. Then before that, and then of course City have got Champions League second leg against Copenhagen. Wonderful Copenhagen.
United did lose away at Forest in the league as well. So
yeah, I went to that one.
What are you saying, Sam? Yeah. They're going out the cup?
I'm saying that the City ground with a bit of momentum at the weekend, they weren't that bad at Aston Villa. Villa kind of edged it out with just Ollie Watkins, just fantastic. Bailey was great, but Forest were okay. They had moments. And at home, at the City ground,
the
I think
City ground under the lights is a special place. Actually, you can sort of imagine all those sort of amazing European nights under Clough when they won the European Cup, and
proper old school ground.
And some good fans at Forest, and they will make that very hard for United. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise us, would it? If they beat
wouldn't
United?
Be a shock.
I mean, it would surprise me if City lost at Luton, but it surprised me if City lost to anyone, really.
Gale says that depends the FA Cup result against Forest, but he thinks United will be rolled over.
Rolled over? Oh, the weekend?
Yeah,
the weekend. Against Forest?
Oh, they could be, you know. It could be both, but I'd be worried for United.
Well, I'll tell you who will be watching a tape of that Forest United game is Jurgen Klopp, because they're Liverpool going to Forest on Saturday.
Of course,
and they're leading the league table going into the weekend. They've got a chance to get the first win of the weekend under their belts before City and United. Then Arsenal play away at Sheffield United on Monday night, which on paper sounds an easy game, but there is something different, isn't there, about going to away Monday north for a London team. Arsenal historically, you think, could be a bit wobbly. Up north on a Monday night against Wilder. I mean,
wild winds as well.
Yeah, wild winds.
Can they cut it on a wet Monday night in March?
Can they? What do you think, Jerry?
Well, I think Arsenal should win that one. Really.
Yeah, I think they should.
Sheffield United are very poor, aren't they?
I mean,
Palace took them apart last week. So no, sorry, it was Burnley, wasn't it? But Sheffield United have been very poor recently. And I don't, there was a little uplift when Wilder came back, wasn't there? But I think that's sort of dissipated now. I think they're going to be one of the teams going down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's an easy win for Arsenal. I don't think. I mean, I can make that prediction quite comfortably.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to be wrong on that one.
I think
we'll see next week.
But what is interesting, I think, is that now, you know, if Arsenal are sort of having to play catch up, I don't know how the weekend fixtures pan out going forward, but that is always a slightly worse position to be in.
Yeah.
If you know that the team, it can work both ways, obviously. But if say Liverpool and City drop points, you think, okay, we're in with a chance here. But if you constantly got that sort of 4 or 5 point gap, you know that even if you win, you're not going to overtake them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get the momentum back, and you're sort of playing catch up a little.
Right.
Even if you're on the same level of number of games, it feels like you're playing catch up, and it's not quite the same, is it? You know.
No, it's not at all. And I think if you don't score early in those games, then the pressure can come out. Liverpool already won, City already won. We haven't broken through yet against
season
Sheffield.
when Leicester won the league, and Tottenham was sort of always playing the day after or later in the day, and Leicester would get it over the line. And then Tottenham would go out, and like you say, there was that pressure. And I know Pochettino at the time, he felt. I mean, he actually said he thought it was a conspiracy that the fixtures were working against them. But I think he knew that his players felt more pressure because of that. Well, and that's, you know, again, it depends how Arsenal's fixtures fall over the next it's 2 months, isn't it? Really, for the running. If they are getting if they're always playing catch up. That is going to be another element of pressure.
Paul Merson made that point actually a couple of weeks ago, where he said last season a thing against Arsenal was City always seemed to play first. And so, like, you know, the late salvos Arsenal had against Bournemouth the late goals, but they were so much under pressure because City had played 12-30 and won.
And you can't afford to drop a point.
So it is definitely, if Liverpool have won easily at Forest and City threat the Manchester derby, then, and there's a whole 24 hours and over before Arsenal play, the pressure builds and builds. So
but let's be realistic. The TV companies schedule when these matches go
on,
and they want them playing at separate times. So build up the pressure and the narrative.
Yeah.
So every game's got something on it.
True. Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing. As you said, they did it for the Leicester Tottenham sort of season.
Yeah.
And that's how football is now. I mean,
so it's not.
It'd be great to have them all playing at the same time.
Well, we will. Obviously, last day of the season is exactly that, and you know that's when it would be really fascinating if it's still 3 teams capable of winning it. You know, I mean that's not unlikely that it can happen.
We've had the split screen on Sky 2, but
might
3. We'll have 3,
I've never
I'll
seen
just
that
get through.
before.
I'll get my phone up, laptop. I will be at the games, of course. So I probably won't have it on TV at all. But at the moment they're within 3 points. You know, there's 1 point between Liverpool to City, and then
hopefully it continues. I think it will go. I mean, maybe if not the last day, I think it will go close between all 3 of them. I think we're at that stage of the season now where whoever drops any points, whether it be a draw or defeat, is potentially really costly. And I mean, you look at the next month's fixtures; it's a huge month. I mean,
Arsenal go to City on Easter Sunday. I know that because I was asked what my plans for Easter the other day, and I thought, look where I might be working.
Do you think it depends on the cup competitions who can do the best? Because Arsenal obviously have to overcome Porto now. If there's a bit of a galvanisation, or is that a big hurdle that will falter their season? Or if they get past Porto, is it a big wow? Now it can
work either way. I mean, that's another thing I got really wrong last week. I thought Arsenal would roll over Porto, but Porto really had Arsenal worked out. They knew how to defend their corners, tactically very, very astute, and Arsenal struggled to sort of counter it, didn't they? They were the better team slightly, but they didn't take the chances and looked a bit naive in conceding late on. I would say that tie now, having confidently predicted an easy Arsenal win, is very much in the balance. I thought it might affect them against I've forgotten who they played. Against Newcastle, but it didn't at all. In fact, it galvanised them. The defeat helped them and made them a bit more energetic and urgent. And if they go out, will that mean they can focus on the league, or will it mean they're totally demoralised and collapse? I mean, what do you think, Joe?
Well, I mean, the 2 factors are, yes, there's confidence, but also injuries as well, and tiredness. So, you know, the more games you're playing, the more risk of injuries and tired players, you know, fatigue kicking in. So, you know, throw it back to when Antonio Conte won the league with Chelsea. They weren't in Europe that year. You know, they were, 7th or 8th the year before, and they won the league comfortably because they were only playing in one competition. You know, I think Spurs were were closest to them, and they were in the Champions League that year. So, you know, for Chelsea, that was a godsend not to be playing in Europe, you know, just to have that 1 game a week to focus on. None of those top 4 are on at the moment now, are they? They've all got European competition. So it is going to be, you know, that will come into play. Liverpool got a bye through to the last 16, didn't they, in Europa? So they have got slightly less in that respect. They haven't had quite as many, but I think there's
they've got Sparta Prague coming up in the next round.
And normally, if he had a fully fit squad, that's when he could play some of the youngsters. You know, certainly the home leg, you'd imagine. But you know, there's no let up. There's no, you know, there's no resting now, is there? They've got to play every game as if it's sort of. I think City probably the bigger and fitter squad of the lot. Yeah. Although Arsenal will have players coming back, won't they? Liverpool will have players coming back. But City, as it stands, although De Bruyne had this slight niggle again, didn't he? But as it stands, City have got the least of those sort of worries.
And they've got the biggest, strongest squad.
That's what I mean, yeah. So they've got the biggest one.
Even with injuries, City feel stronger.
Do you think the way I saw someone make this point is that Arsenal have a thinner squad than City, but the way Arsenal are playing games is the games are almost over at half time. They're so dominant, and like Newcastle could have got back into it at 2-0, but really Arsenal were running all over them. They killed West Ham at half time, Burnley, and Man City. I think the edge of Man City, which I've noticed, is they're letting teams in games until the end. You know, Brentford, it was right at the end, 1-0. Bournemouth, that danger at the end, it could have equalised. So it's almost, if Arsenal they have a thin squad, but if they can win games by 60 minutes
and then take players off,
whereas City are like, if they keep the other team in the game, and the big thing is City aren't killing games off like they did last year, you know, where Haaland scored a half an hour hat trick against Forest. They're wiping teams aside. But if City are not killing games off, then they're going to have to keep those players on in all competitions. Whereas if Arsenal can confidently, you know, start first half well, 2-0 up, 3-0 up, bring on El Neni, Jorginho, you know, as they used to do with Rob Holding, then maybe that could help Arsenal as well.
I just think City have got so many options, though. You look at how deep their squad is and how many talented players they've got. I think even though if they're not killing off games and they're having to work harder, I just think the level of quality they got is on. You know,
and the way they play, you know, the ball does the work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're not, you know, I know he's got this incredible sort of intensity about winning the ball back. You know, that's one of his favourite sort of things is get the ball back as soon as possible. So they work hard off the ball. But when they've got the ball, they're you know, that's a lovely way to play football. You know, it's much more relaxed than the sort of chasing. Yeah. So they tend to have, you know, 60% plus possession. And when you've got that and you're playing with the ball and you're playing with the opposition in the opposition half, it's not as intense, is it?
I mean, it's amazing to watch City against Bournemouth, because you look at the team on paper and you've got no idea what position anyone is playing. And then you look at it and, I mean, they all play about 3 different positions, all the players. I mean, John Stones was playing in a back 4 when Bournemouth had the ball. And then when Manchester City had the ball, he was running in and joining the attacks. It was like he's playing like number 10 sometimes, trying to play Haaland, and it was like unbelievable to watch.
There's a similarity between Arsenal and City, isn't there? And maybe that's with Pep working under, Pep working with Arteta. They've got, you know, defenders playing in midfield and strikers here, there. And
the fitness John Stones must have to play that role, because he's running forward, and then if it goes out for a goal kick, he's sprinting back to be in the back 4.
By the way, talking about scheduling it in Europe, Joey, I've just noticed, you know, Liverpool go to Sparta Prague. This is in a week or so, March 7th. They go to Sparta Prague for the away leg of their Europa League tie. Then on Sunday, they're at home to Manchester City. And then the following Thursday, they're at home to Sparta Prague. Now, there's a fixture that's going to a really mouth-watering one. And, you know, that's, you know, Arsenal could benefit, whoever wins that.
Arsenal could end that weekend top if they keep winning. Again, that's momentum. Then do Arsenal go into the Man City game top of the league, and all of a sudden it's
Liverpool win it, and then they're further ahead, and Arsenal lose, and they're further behind.
Yeah. Culminates different permutations every weekend. It's fantastic. We get some comments in as well.
Who's watching and what are they saying?
Keep your questions coming in as well. We'll try and answer as many as we can. So we've got Simon Riley thinks United will get battered by another 6. So like 6-3. Depends who can get a hat-trick this year. Gail said Arsenal are getting players back now, so versus losing them in the running. So last year it was Saliba and Partey, whereas now Partey's back. You know, touch wood, they haven't had any defensive injuries, but you never know. It could alter the season as well there. Greg says the best defensive record in the league today is for Arsenal. Defenders win leagues, ?
Yeah, that's what he's asking. Yeah, they
He's
always
even
say,
popping up at the other end. Gabriel with goals as well.
Yeah.
Kivy
It's always
with
said
a
that,
goal.
isn't it?
Ferguson quote, wasn't it? About defences,
you get
He
get yourself the best possible goalkeeper and the best defenders in front of that best possible goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And you've got a chance to win the league. It's the same in the relegation battle. If your goal difference is bad, you're more likely to go down. That counts as an extra point almost as well when teams are level.
Exactly. And your result of your poll is that more people would rather play for Klopp than Guardiola. I don't think I'd have the engine for Klopp. That's the problem.
I think I'd have the engine for
so.
either. I was tired.
You get tired just reporting on.
I was tired watching John Stones on Saturday. It was like
it's taken a lot out of you.
Yeah, it has.
But I think Klopp would get me on side more. I think Pep is too much intellectual. I couldn't handle
too much information.
Yeah, I think Klopp would just say run, and I'd be like, yes, okay.
Well, keeping it simple, football is quite a simple game.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the best managers tend to keep it simple, don't they?
It was Harry Redknapp's famous tactical advice to Pavlyuchenko, who barely spoke a word of English, and he had a translator. And in the dressing room, Harry was trying to get a point across, and the translator said, "What do you want me to tell him?" He said, "Just run a bit more." But I think there are two managers that would be unbelievable to play for. I mean, that's the other thing is when you're trying to sign players, you've got managers at that level, and we're lucky. We've had some of the best in the world now for a few years. Players want to play for them, and that's such a big sort of attraction as a club, isn't it? When you've got a top manager, there's no player in the world that wouldn't want to play under Guardiola or Klopp, or even a few years ago it would have been a Mourinho or whatever. So that's a big change from where it used to be, and I think that's where the clubs, in terms of recruitment, they've always got that trump card, haven't they? Saying So again, makes it really interesting. We haven't even touched on it this week, but the Liverpool situation come next summer, because Xabi Alonso's now looking more and more like the next Bayern Munich manager.
Bayern.
So then do Liverpool sort of almost concede defeat on that, and then they've got to make serious overtures to other people.
Liverpool is a very, very attractive club, isn't it? Anyway, whatever position, Liverpool is a huge club to manage, and now we've seen they've got this great squad of young players coming through, as well as all the established ones as well, and that great support. I can't think what other managers off the top of my head would want to be their manager, would fit the bill, but there will be no shortage of people that want to be Liverpool manager, whether they have to buy into that whole thing about, Inglethorpe's youth system and the whole ethos of the club too. Maybe, I don't know, Alonso said he's going to do another year at Leverkusen anyway, didn't he? But I
think
I would be very surprised.
So I think it'd be a really interesting summer, because you've got Bayern Munich job, you've got the Liverpool job, Barcelona job as well. Obviously Xavi's leaving. Maybe the Man United job if Ineos decide that Erik ten Hag isn't the man.
Real Madrid as well. Ancelotti goes to Brazil. Possibly.
I thought Ancelotti just signed a new contract.
I mean, that's been in the. I mean, people have been talking about Ancelotti leaving Real Madrid for about 2 years.
But a contract at Real Madrid is
exactly.
It's like an ashtray on a motorbike, isn't it?
So I think it'll be a really interesting summer in terms of managerial switches. I mean,
Conte's out there, Mourinho's out there, Tuchel will be out there. There'll be some interesting names.
It's a better roller coaster managers than Pardew, Allardyce, and Kervishley.
Big Sam
years ago.
Big Sam for the Liverpool job.
Maybe.
Mick McCarthy's out of work, I think.
That's what Rio Ferdinand said, that if the United job came up, Arteta would jump at it.
That's just laughable, isn't it?
Is that just Rio Ferdinand trying to stir the pot a bit?
Well, that's just we are Man United. We get the top. It's like the pinnacle at the moment, you have to say, is the Premier League, and it's Liverpool, Man City, and then probably Arsenal are getting up there towards the top in Europe. But the Premier League is the biggest league in the world, isn't it? Really, money, players. So why would Arteta leave a club where he's built he is the man at Arsenal, he is the head of everything goes through him? Why would he leave to go Man United, where there's new owners, there's a squad he has to rebuild again, and he has no connection to Man United?
The money, the challenge, the chance to make Man United the best team in the world
would
again.
be interesting.
As we've seen so many times.
If he left Arsenal for Man United, that would be... if he's going to leave Arsenal, it's going to be for Manchester City, surely.
Yeah. Well, Sol Campbell went from Tottenham. So people do make some strange moves. Things
I'd be very.
I
mean,
I'd be surprised.
I mean, Rio's got us talking about it. But
I think he's stirring the pot a bit.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking about managers then, but I think it's a really big week for Erik ten Hag.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lose at Forest and then they get battered by City,
Yeah.
I think his job's under real pressure.
Yeah,
I mean, already is under real pressure.
Sam, we were talking earlier about Pochettino. He's got the backing of the Chelsea owners, and you were wondering, well, does he really? I think he probably does, but there's only so many results that can go against him. Ten Hag.
They said that with Potter, didn't they? As well?
Yeah, Potter,
Exactly.
Yeah.
To me, it was just that he said that after Wolves, and to say exactly the same thing after the last defeat makes me think: is this just what you're told to say? Is this just you like you say, you can't read into almost what managers say and what players say. We've all heard players say, I'm staying at this club, I love this club. Fabian Delph famously at Villa, I love Villa, I'm not staying, signs for Man City next week. So you never know. I think it could be an interesting.
I was going to say, Chelsea fans, let us know what you think about Poch and the future of the club. I just noticed, Sam, that
Sam as well.
That Sam has got it in the comments. Sam Uncho, is that how you say your name, Sam?
Yeah.
He says Chelsea are going to win the FA Cup and Chelsea champions.
Well,
Ian says of what?
That would be the trophy that everyone sort of wants Poch to, says Poch can't be a top manager unless he's won a trophy, until he's won a trophy in England, which I think is nonsense. Yeah, I was there on Friday. He did a long press conference. He spoke at length about all sorts of things, and one of the questions that kept coming up was, if you win a trophy, will that validate you as a manager? And he said, no. Klopp didn't win a trophy for 4 years. Klopp was a great manager. He was a really good manager before. He's a really good manager now. He hasn't become a better manager because they've won trophies. They've just won trophies. And he said, for him, it's that would be about ego. He wants to win trophies because he wants this Chelsea team to win, and he thinks when they start winning things, then they can start to develop like some of the other young squads, up and coming squads. Probably similar to Arsenal actually. They probably need now to win something to get to the next level where they're going to be like a City and a Liverpool and have that belief that they can do it. At the moment, again, jury's still out. They're still seen as a team, that are probably, when push comes to shove, when it gets to the sharp end of the season, are going to crumble under pressure because they're young, and that's what we thought last year, and it did happen. Have they made enough difference this year? They've added players, and they've got, if they keep everyone fit, but have they still got that mentality? And usually that mentality comes from winning trophies. And so, and managers know that, Pochettino knows that it's not about having a trophy on his CV is going to make any difference to him here. The other question though was about, if you win this cup final, will it make a difference to your relationship with the people above you? And he said, well, I have no say in that. That's up to them. Now that would be the concern. He genuinely isn't worried about having a trophy under his belt for any, get that monkey off his back or anything like that. He wants to get Chelsea into the mindset of being a winning team, and winning a trophy would help that. But he also knows that if he goes on without winning, then the pressure comes down from above. They've got to start all over it. I mean, where do Chelsea go if they sack him? They've got to start all over
pointless,
again.
They'd be mad to sack him on that basis because they'd have to start all over again. And I was going to look as a conclusion to our live chat. Thanks for joining in. This is going to be part of our new Hayters TV membership scheme going forward. So keep in on the comments. Let us know what you want to see on Hayters TV, what you don't like, what you do like, what clubs. Do you want us to cover any more clubs? We cover pretty much everything that we can at the moment, but the more you get behind us, the more you subscribe, follow and like the channel, the more we'll be able to cover better games, bigger games, more games all over the country and the world. We've got the Euros coming up this summer. That's going to be a big trip for some of the people sitting around this table, I hope. I was going to say, should we finish off by looking at the relegation battle, but that's almost impossible to discuss because we don't know if Forest or Everton are going to get deducted more points. And those appeals, I was reading this morning, can go through to May the 24th after the season's over.
It's a mess, really, isn't it?
So
I posed this to you yesterday.
Come on, Premier League, what the hell is that about?
Imagine if on the last day, right, Luton have stayed up because they've beaten whoever they've got, and Everton go down. Everton, Brentford, whoever go down. 2 weeks after the season's finished, the appeals come through and the points have been rewarded, and after the season's finished, Luton are now relegated. That would be an absolute farce.
It's like having a VAR decision like the 2 days after the game. Or actually, there was a penalty there in the first half. Get all the players back, all the crowd back, take a penalty.
When really, the team will bright that Sheffield United could have a go at that because they scored a goal against Aston Villa the year they went down when the goal line technology was turned off at Villa Park. Yeah. And they ended up going down. So it's just mad.
I think the Premier League have got to get hold of it because it could become really messy.
It's got to be sorted out long before the end.
Why is it the only league that has this problem as well? Does no other league has these issues with law or finances, charges, whatever? Is it just It's just the madness of the Premier League.
I mean, should these FFP details be just dealt with in the closed season? So we start the season knowing where everyone stands. Is that a solution?
I think we said that last time round, didn't we? We said let's hope going forward after this season you're not going to have any more of these issues coming up, because it's just a mess.
Yeah.
And you cannot have it going on through the season. So that would be the solution.
Well, there's real talk of Chelsea if they don't sell players again. There's some
Yeah,
reports
so that was
earlier that
100
they
million they need to bring in, otherwise they're in
So
danger.
you think and obviously the Man City thing's still going on, and so I don't think it'll be
That's
the
not
last.
set for 2 years, is it?
Exactly,
End of
yeah.
next
And that
season.
could- yeah.
So this is the financial fair play issues are going to go on for quite a while, unfortunately.
Gail just asked, they got 4 points back. Does that settle it? No, because their appeal is of the other 6.
Yeah.
And then
It sort of suggests that 6
Yeah.
points is seen as the reasonable
Yeah.
for that level of I mean, they have broken the rules.
Yeah.
That's clear. It's about whether that's appropriate punishment. So they've now on the appeal said 6 points deduction is an appropriate punishment. If they get caught, if they get found guilty on the second charge, that then should be another 6 points. So it end up being 12.
Yeah,
And Forest could be 6 points, and who knows what else.
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. You can't predict who's going to go down at all.
No, but
until
we
know
can,
the
we
points
can
deduction.
sort of
unfortunately probably say Burnley and Sheffield United.
Burnley and Sheffield United.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but then there's those two, but it's the third one is a bit difficult because you got
Yeah.
Brentford, Palace might be, you think, okay, now Glasner's come in, good win, but no idea.
I think the bottom two are done. It's just who's going to get that last
Yeah.
spot, which the deductions and everything come into it.
I'll get a
wait and
questioning quickly from John, who has said, are Liverpool going to win the quadruple? Is it a proper quadruple if it's Europa League as well?
It's a quadruple.
It's a
Yeah,
quadruple.
4 trophies. Yeah.
I wouldn't call
That's
it.
it.
I mean,
Is it a?
It's not the quadruple. It's
Okay.
a quadruple.
It's a quadruple.
Yeah.
It
But
would be,
they'd be the-
unprecedented.
They'd be the first English team to ever do it, though, right?
I can't think of another team that's done it.
They did the Europa League, FA Cup, League Cup treble.
Yes,
but,
they did that.
But they haven't. Yeah, no one's done a quadruple. So
Well, didn't City do a quintuple or something?
they
they're
did.
posing with 5
They
trophies,
counted the Community Shield.
Yeah.
So
The Club World Cup, the Community Shield, and the UEFA Super Cup are one-off games. They don't count as
No.
a trophy, really, do they?
they did the domestic treble, which
Yeah.
was the League, FA, Prem. And
Yeah,
then
that's.
they did
I mean, the domestic
the
treble
treble.
is
It's
the
a
elite. Yeah. And then
Re-
they won the. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
City. I mean, let's see what happens to them in the future.
Yeah.
And if all this is all unravels for them, that's.
It could all be
We'll
nothing.
be here
yeah.
for hours and hours on end.
There's no reason, actually, logically looking at it, there is no reason. If you're a Liverpool fan, you could look at all the fixtures coming up and say, we can win this. They've got
Yeah.
City at home.
Oh God,
100%.
yeah.
They've
100%.
got, a winnable FA Cup game against Championship opposition, which puts them into, and then you're into the latter stage. Sparta Prague in the Europa League. They're a fantastic position.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
If they, put it another way, if they just carry on winning their games now, they win the quadruple.
Yeah, it's in their
And
hands.
it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
Especially the spirit they showed and kids coming through and doing stuff and players coming
Yeah.
back. Klopp's last season. Why not?
Yeah,
has
I'm
to-
looking at their fixtures here. Every one of them, you would tip Liverpool to win
Yeah.
every match that they've got coming up.
It has to be Klopp v Alonso as well, doesn't it? You imagine that Europa League final.
Oh, is that a possibility?
It is, yeah.
All right, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a quadruple is a bit of a stretch, but
Okay.
I think
It's a stretch, but
yeah,
it's possible.
a treble. I mean, Europa League, Premier League, they've already won the Carabao.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that far.
And
far
Blackburn
out to
win the
say.
FA Cup. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
No, definitely not.
Blackburn, Newcastle, isn't it? I think in
Yeah.
the FA Cup. That's another
Tonight,
one
yeah.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, guys. I think. Oh, I'll tell you what I will finish off with, because we've had another poll going. I've just noticed that you've been voting in your tens about who will win the Premier League title this season. I can see some bias here from Arsenal fans. We've got 59% say Arsenal going to win
okay.
it. 22% say Man City. So you all think we're idiots predicting City or Liverpool, because only 19% of you think Liverpool are going to win the title. But thanks to all of you who have.
I think Liverpool.
All right, okay.
But
If I
Maybe
had
it's-
to
yeah, it's
pick,
a death.
if I had to pick honestly, if I had someone tell me pick one, I'd say City, just because of.
Yeah.
I said
It's
pre-season,
safe as
City, Liverpool,
Yeah.
top two
Yeah.
by distance, and I still think they're the top two.
Yeah.
But
When I came on here a few weeks ago, I think I said City, and I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I've not seen enough to change. My
Like I
mind.
said, depends. If Arsenal get through that away game at Man City without a defeat, then it changes everything. But it's Arsenal. If they overcome the hurdles that have tripped them up before, then they're a different Arsenal. But remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think Arsenal at their absolute best with all players fit, and the way they're playing at the moment, almost unplayable. They've beaten Liverpool
Yeah.
quite comfortably. They've beaten City at home. It's just can they sustain it for another quarter of the season? I wouldn't be confident.
They've always got that kind of Porto performance in them. I always feel like, even though they're scoring goals for fun and they're an amazing team and great to watch, but I just think there's always that suspicion of like a 0-0 or a 1-0 loss.
Coming better towards the end of the season than as opposed to starting it like they did last season. And they will probably get better next season. This might be a season too early for them. You know, only time will tell. I predicted they would win the league early in the season, but I'm withdrawing that prediction now.
Yeah. Can you do that? Can you withdraw predictions?
I just did. I didn't have any money on it.
One final comment. Got to be a shout out here for Nazira Youssef, who we know very well. She's our Liverpool correspondent, and she's put in a shout here. She was at the final actually in the club.
I saw that
on Sunday. And she loves the club, and she covers the club brilliantly for us.
She does.
And she said, "Poetic ending incoming at Anfield. That's for sure. Sunday was just the best start of it all."
Isn't she just like living the dream though? Like your greatest ever manager for most people, right? You know, they weren't alive as Shankly and whoever. So their greatest ever manager, and Nazira fantastically is covering every single week. Klopp going to the games in this amazing way. It's like the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a dream job. Yeah,
be even better if he wasn't leaving.
But I do find it a little bit sickly, this sort of Klopp fairy tales sort of thing.
There we go.
Football's not a game of fairy tales really, apart from in Roy of the Rovers. I don't think they will win the quadruple because I just think it's just a bit too fantastic.
Probably too much.
They might win one, or they've won one. They might win one more of those trophies, but that's my prediction.
I don't think they'll win another trophy this season. I'll back you up on that.
Which one?
I think Europa is the safest bet.
Okay.
I think they'll do 3. I think Europa and FA Cup. I think the league will do too much with their injuries, to be fair. So I think
you can't win anything with kids apart from the smaller trophies. Is that what you're saying, Sam?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to be back here next week. Maybe on Tuesday, maybe on our new regular Monday slot. So keep an eye on the community, keep an eye on our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and everything else to get updated on what's going on all things Hayters TV, the website too. Check out Danny B's articles there and all the other guys and girls behind the scenes at Hayters TV. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a look out for the new membership scheme too. You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and all the other stuff. Thanks again. We'll be with you next week for another Hayters TV Football Weekly Live. Thanks very much indeed.